Hello everyone, I'm Larry Gilstead.
And I'm Carol Greenewalt. Tonight we come to the last Northwest Sports Digest for the season, and as a fitting climax, a step-by-step account about how 3 people here in Moscow got up enough courage to jump out of an airplane at 4,000 feet and live to tell about it. But we have a little unfinished business first in the way of a sports quiz. Larry?
As you may recall, last week we asked when was the last time the Chicago Cubs won the pennant. Well, you had to search in your almanacs all the way back to 1945 when they faced the Detroit Tigers and lost in 7 games. The first one up with the right answer is Tom Canfield of Grangeville, our second 2-time winner, and he gets a $10 gift certificate from Great Western in Lewiston. We'd like to thank Great Western and our other sponsors, P&E Athletic Supply in Moscow and the Lighthouse Sporting Goods in Coeur d'Alene, for donating the prizes in our sports quiz. And thanks to you viewers for joining in so enthusiastically. Carol?
It used to be that the only reason to jump out of a plane was to get into a combat zone. Paratroops during wartime were just worried about getting down alive and staying that way. It wasn't until later that someone got the bright idea that falling out a few thousand feet before opening the parachute might be a lot of fun. Quite a lot of local people seemed to agree, so we went out to the Palouse Parachute Club at the Moscow Pullman Airport to take a look. Larry Gilstead went along, and he too decided to give it a try, as we'll see on Games People Play.
I just love the unnaturalness of the sport. I mean, really, it's probably the most unnatural thing a human being can do. There's not a single cell in your body or my body that has evolved with the specific purpose of allowing you to fly better through the air. But that's exactly what we do. We fly through the air. I can do anything in the air an airplane can do, except, of course, go back up. I think there's a certain charisma or mystique about the sport, which it causes a lot of interest, naive interest, I think is what it is mainly. But my students relate to me in quite a different way, I think, than with somebody who is not a skydiver. A lot of my students have expressed interest in jumping. Now, a small percent actually go through with it. Maybe 25 people tell you they're very interested in making a first jump, and 3 or 4 will make jumps. A few of my students, Mark Ibanez, Georgia Bashaw, and a very good friend of mine, Larry Gilstead, actually went through with the first jump.
The main canopy, the main container, the harness, which keeps you in, it's fairly strong. It'll, this canopy and this harness system will withstand an opening shock of 400 miles an hour with a 200-pound person in it. And you won't be traveling more than 30 miles an hour when it finally opens. So I don't think you have to worry about it breaking. It feels like a balanced backpack because you have your reserve on there too.
Well, I've got a teacher by the name of Parker Van Hecky, and he is, as you know, a parachuting freak, and he got talking about it in class, and he's got pictures all over his office, and it's something I've always wanted to do ever since I was little. In fact, I tried to do it when I was in high school, but my parents wouldn't let me. So Parker got talking about it, and I decided this is the chance. I said I'd do it whenever I got the opportunity, and it came along, and it was too good to pass up.
There was a show on, I think, about 1956 or 57, around in that era. And I was about 7 years old. It was called Ripcord. And it was about these two guys that used to jump out of airplanes a lot. I think it was back then that I initially got the idea that I would like to do something like that. And as a kid, you know, you were always jumping off things and yelling Geronimo, jumping off porches.
Parker got us into it, just from hearing about him talk about it. And he was talking to Mark and I about it, and just got us very excited. You know, we realized that this was the opportunity to do it, and if we ever wanted to do it, this would be the time. So we did it.
Here's a guy who doesn't come across as a daredevil or anything like that. He comes across as a normal human being. And he's a skydiver, you know, he's got over 100 jumps. And I looked at him and I said to myself, you know, if he can do it, why can't I do it?
It's 28 feet in diameter. Okay. Yeah. Let me put this thing on.
The first time we were in the class kind of situation, and Joel showed us the chute, and the reality of it set in, and I thought, this is absurd, completely absurd. And a couple of times then I think, no way, you can't back out now, it's too late. And so I kept fluctuating like that during that whole training period. Sometimes that feeling would set in, and then I just talked myself out of it.
Static line. Okay, your static line will be hooked to the airplane by way of this snap right here.
The first thing you have to do is you have to make a commitment to yourself. You can't go into the sport saying, well, maybe I will and maybe I won't. Once you do that, once you start that commitment, then you go through the training process, and more and more of the sport becomes clear to you. What was hazy in my mind about, you know, just reading about the sport became more clear to me when it was shown to me how the chute is packed and how it's supposed to come out of off the back, and how it comes out of the container, and how the shroud, the suspension lines unfold off these little rubber bands and everything, and how the chute opens, and how the mechanics of the sport actually work.
You're still falling away from the airplane at this point. So, and the lines will start deploying. This is being dragged along by the airplane as you're falling away from it, okay? The canopy is held in the bag by way of this diaper. The diaper opens up and the canopy starts coming out of the bag. Okay? Very simple. What could go wrong, you know?
Have you ever had a malfunction on one of these bags at this drop
The
zone?
very first jump, when we got it the first time, we had an experienced jumper go out on it. And it did malfunction, but only because of packing error. We have thrown out over 700 students since then, and not one of them has had a malfunction.
My first jump was 7 years ago, but I remember it just like it was yesterday. And to see people that I know well, my friends, my students, going through this experience, I don't know who has more fun with it, them or me. I just love to see it happen.
The very first jump is going to be a static line jump, and that's where your chute is connected to the airplane, and it's opened automatically for you. We get them out here in the morning before they're going to jump and go through the cutaway harness.
I'm going to say go again. Go. Arch 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, check 1,000, check 1,000. Be sure and look down on your back, make sure things are coming off.
And Joel, does it matter which shoulder you look over?
No, look both ways. Okay, now. Something's up there, all your lines are stretched out, but it's garbage. First thing you want to do, put your feet and knees together out in front of you. That's an airborne body position. It'll flip you right over on your back, okay? Since your reserve is coming off your front, you don't want anything in front of it. It's got to go up. Seem logical? Okay, first thing you do, feet and knees together out in front of you. Look at your cape well covered, pull them down. Look at the rings, lock your thumbs in the rings, okay? Pull them down. You're now disengaged from your main canopy. Cross your hand over. Look at your reserve ripcord handle. Pull it. Okay. By this time, the Stevens cutaway should have taken it. You know, it should be 100 feet above you. Go for it anyway, because it may have slipped off. It may have broken. You should be the most dependable thing in the sky. Okay, now who wants to try it?
Me.
Okay. Let's go through very, very slowly here at first. Just put it on just like a jacket.
I think the toughest thing was knowing that, well, you have to learn how to arch and count. And I think talking to all the people that did their first jumps, none of them arched and none of them counted. I thought, wow, how important could this be? Because nobody seems to do it. And I don't know, I started to act strangely after that and not take that part of it so seriously.
Very important. Hang on to your ripcord whenever you pull it. Okay? Just hang on to it. If you have it in your hand, hang on to it.
Arch 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, check 1,000, check 1,000.
Okay. Piece of garbage up there. You're still falling fast, but you want to get rid of it. What are you going to do? Good. So,
The reality of the sport
arch 1,000, 2,000,
really hits you, I think, the first time you get into the harness, the little practice harness there. And you're just kind of swinging there, and there's nothing under your feet, you know, for a couple feet until the gravel floor. But that gives you the first impression of at least, you know, being in a harness and what it's like to be under canopy.
No! I try to explain to them exactly what they're going to experience, knowing full well that it won't come close. But I have a lot of literature compiled on it. Larry Gilstead spent hours in this office right here reading up about the sport in my parachutist magazines. I've never quite seen anybody go at it that vigorously, and consequently he's going to be an excellent jumper because of it.
What I did was, in my spare time, whenever I had a chance, I would usually at the privacy of my own home, I'd take masking tape and put 2 chunks of it on each shoulder, overlapping themselves, and then a chunk here to represent the reserve ripcord. And then I'd go through the arch count and say to myself, you've got a canopy up there, but it's a bunch of garbage. And I'd rip off the first chunks of masking tape. That was opening the cape wells, you see. And then I would rip off the second ones with my thumbs. That was getting the thumbs in the rings and releasing there. And then I'd put my arm over my shoulder to cover the hardware and rip off that piece of masking tape, which represented the reserve ripcord. So I was psyching myself up for it before I ever got in the harness, and it paid off. I managed to get, you know, through the procedure very quickly.
Go! Arch 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, check 1,000, check 1,000.
Okay, let's go do the aircraft then.
After getting in the harness and running through the emergency procedures, we then got on the back of a pickup truck and proceeded to make fools out of ourselves, jumping out of the back and doing a little tumbling exercise, rolling over on our sides and learning the correct way to fall, which seems like it's easy, but you're actually coming down, as I learned, a little harder than expected.
All right, that looks a lot better, a lot better.
It's a very assumed danger because people are not familiar with falling towards the earth at 120 miles per hour. If you were to ask a a backwoodsman from Australia to jump in your car and go driving down the street at 60 miles an hour, he'd be terrified. But to you or I, that's perfectly normal. Although there's a very big danger there.
The first few days, it was once in a while on my mind, and then about a week before the jump, I would say for 2 weeks it was on my mind just a little bit every so often. And the week before the jump, it got to me. You know, I realized that it's going to happen in a week, and Mark and I would get each other more and more excited about it, and we'd ask Parker about it. He even spent half of a class period once telling everybody in the class about the jump and how it was going to be, because everybody was so interested. So by then it was quite a big thing in my life. You know, I was very excited, talked about it a lot.
The first person will be in this position right here next to the door. Okay, I'll be right behind them back here. And the second jumper will be behind me back here in the back. Okay. We'll be on jump run. Or first of all, we'll take off, get to 2,500 feet. I'll open the door and throw out a wind drift indicator. Okay. Make sure you have your reserve ripcord handle guarded at all times. All right. You'll be up here, probably hanging on for dear life. I'll be back here. As soon as I throw out the wind drift indicator, I'll close the door again and come down, and I'll hook your static line up to this. And it's bolted to the frame of the airplane. Okay, we'll go make another turn and watch the wind drift indicator hit the ground. I'll open up the door again and you'll jump run. I'll hit you on the back and say, "Get out!" At which time, first thing you want to do is put your hand on the frame of the door and back. That's to brace you. Don't put it like this because your thumb might give out and you dive out the airplane. You know, you're still attached to your static line, but we like posed exits instead of diving leaps on a static line. Okay, brace yourself. Put your right foot out on the bolts of the step. Put your left hand on the strut. Cross your leg over. Put your left foot out on the end of the step. And reach over with your right hand and grab the strut. Dangle your right leg. Okay? Look right back at me. Don't look up. Don't look down. Don't examine the strut. Okay. Your static line will be trailing back in. You're going to have to stay pretty low because you have all this garbage on your back. Okay. Look right back out at me, and I'll say, "Go." At which time, you'll get your rear end up in the air, and then let go of your hands. What we don't want you to do is push off of your hands, or you're going to go right back through your risers. And right, you're going to do a complete somersault.
Well, you just push with your legs.
Right. Just kind of step off to the side and get your rear end up in the air.
I mean, shoot. First of all, it goes from the talking stage. Parker and I were talking, you know, yeah, sometime we'll do it. Then it got down to a date, and the days drew closer, and then we did the classroom situation. And every point, it got a little bit more real. I'm really going to jump out of an airplane.
Might be a good idea. Yeah, that's definitely tight enough.
Good enough.
Is it supposed to be this tight?
Yes.
Okay. It is this tight.
You ready?
All right.
on this jump, Larry went first, which of course gave me a lot more time to think. And funny, I didn't have as many butterflies once I got into the airplane because my mind was so made up that I was going to jump and it was going to be fun. I was taking the whole thing in a positive atmosphere and a positive outlook. And it didn't worry me. I didn't have as many butterflies as I did going through the process.
There was a lot of happy talk. I was talking with the pilot about flying in small planes. He was saying reassuring things like, "You're going to love it." And I was saying things back to him like, I know I'm going to love it. When I saw him reach about 3,000 feet, I started to get a little nervous. And when the door opened to throw the wind drift indicator out, I peeked over the edge. And it's a long way down. I became pretty calm up until the point where he was making the corrections to the pilot when he was on the jump run. He was saying 5 right, 10 left, and looking down and trying to find the spot. Ahead of time, I was trying to think of, okay, you say arch 1,000 and 2,000, 3,000, and you stay in the arch. I finally got out and positioned on the step, and I looked back into the airplane, and Joel was there, and he went, "Go! Go! Arch 1,000!" And that was it. I said, I just kind of froze there, nice hard arch, and went, "How about that? It's open." And disconnected the things and just went, "Woo!" and just started hollering. I forgot completely about counting past arch 1,000, and from then on out, it was just a pure joyride all the way down.
Oh, wow, I couldn't believe that I was going to do this within seconds. And then he just climbed up a little higher, and then he had me move up near the door and told me to get out. And in that kind of thing, you're so conditioned to do it that you don't really think about it.
5 right.
I think the most unnatural thing in the world is to get out on the strut of an airplane when it's up there. And that's just not right. I wanted to think, what I was doing. And all of a sudden, he just said, "Go." I looked down, and then I looked over at him because I wanted to think a little more. And then he goes, "Go." And then I just let go. And for the first few seconds, you don't have any idea what's going on. I forgot my count, never my arch 1,000, 2,000, and the whole bit. And then when your chute opens, you just feel at ease. I mean, you don't feel like you're falling anymore, but for a few seconds, my stomach was up in my mouth.
I know now what the second half of the sport is like, and I like that. The part being under canopy and going towards the ground. As it's been told to me, the second half is boring compared to the part where you free fall, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Fantastic. Great jump.
Could you feel the direction of the winds your second time there?
Yeah.
All wrapped
Throw
up.
one thing up here on top. Nice jump.
Thank you. I barely got out there, and Joel said jump. I was thinking, get my butt up in the air, do all this, and he goes, jump. But I wasn't, I was trying to get everything so right that when he said jump, it came too quick.
Did you arch? Did you go through all of that?
I don't remember.
First. I wanted to be first, but after I was third, and I heard from Larry and Mark all of the things that happened, and little pointers, I was glad I was third because I feel like I learned from their mistakes. Tension was building and fear, and I would see that we were rising, and get more and more afraid. Plus I was on my knees, and it was really an uncomfortable position to be in, and the pack was heavy and everything, and that part of it I wanted to get rid of. But then Joel opened the door, and I knew I'd have to climb out on that strut, and I did it, and then he said, "Go," and it was like, I couldn't move. I was just totally blown away, you know, but I forced myself to let myself go. I just felt very comfortable floating around, and just like it was everything I expected it to feel. It
Now
did
it's
feel.
just a
It
relaxed
wasn't, and yet it wasn't strange. It felt good. I was very comfortable up there, and just enjoyed it, spacing around.
Yeah. Seemed like I was being fun.
You were just scooting across the sky.
Joel,
Well, Joel said I had a little trouble on my exit. That's because I was scared to death and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Georgia.
You had a nice landing right in the target, huh? Joel said you got to watch Pullman. You got to stay in line with Pullman all the time, face the wind. No idea where Pullman was.
The biggest thrill, I think, is this may sound a little odd, but the biggest thrill is getting it done. I mean, and actually realizing, reliving the fact that you have done something like that.
It's there.
It's hard to notice what is going on around you because you're thinking about what do I do next. You know, I've got to do this. I've got to count. I've got to get my feet right, arching. All the techniques that are involved in it, and consequently, a lot of the experience is lost. It is something that you will pick up on later jumps as you become more relaxed with it, as you get the basics down.
Larry, I watched that. Look, my palms are sweating. I get so scared climbing the ladder in the studio, I'd never make it out of an airplane.
That's a lot of fun. It's something that I'm continuing. I made my 4th jump yesterday, and one more, and then I get into free fall.
And then it gets easier.
Yeah, as you go along, you get more comfortable doing the things that you're supposed to do, and it becomes more of second nature going through the routine of getting out on the step. I completely blew that, my first jump, but
Crazy.
maybe someday soon I'll just dive right out. I won't have to worry about that. As we mentioned, this is the last show of this series. We'd like to thank you all for watching. It's been a tremendous amount of work and an equal amount of fun to put all our shows together. We hope you enjoyed it.
We'd also like to take this time to thank our crew, without whom the show could never come about, and a special nod in the direction of Bill Harland, our associate producer and resident gadget freak, and our excellent film cinematographers, Tom Coggins and Bill McMillan, and also to our studio manager, who turned director, Randy Maurer. I'm Carol Greenewalt.
And I'm Larry Gilstead. So long for Northwest Sports Digest.